Hey guys, this is Cameron with Motion Science, back with another quick tip/trick for After Effects. And this week I am continuing the focus on the 3D camera inside After Effects. Someone recently asked me how I would make a 3D camera follow a spiral path. And it got me thinking, and I came up with two very quick solutions to how to do that. So I'm going to show you what those two solutions are. So to start off, I'm going to show you, I've got my scene here. I've got a wide angle 24mm camera. I've set up a grid in the background, some white circles, and a couple lights that are lighting them to show some perspective. You can't see all these objects in the timeline because they are shied to keep the timeline clean for you. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to add two null objects. 1 and 2. On the second null object, I'm going to shrink the scale down to about 50%. I'm going to make both of these nulls 3D. And you can see over here the smaller null inside the larger null. So I'm going to parent the smaller null to the larger null. And I'm going to create a rotation with the larger null on the Z-axis. So I'll set a keyframe, hit end on my keyboard to go to the end of the timeline, and I'll set a second keyframe for one full rotation 360 degrees. I'm also going to add a position keyframe, and for this I'm going to move it back about, I don't know, 1000 pixels or so. So I'll hit home on the keyboard to go to the first keyframe. And for the second null, hit P for position, set a keyframe, go to the end of the timeline, and I'm going to move the X position forward about 450 pixels. So you can see here that the first null is rotating, while the second null is rotating with the first null but moving outwards. So we've essentially created a spiral. Now all we have to do is parent our camera to the top null. And we've got a spiral camera move. The problem with this solution is that you'll see the camera spins and it kind of throws the perspective off because of that. Well, because the first null did a full one rotation, I can counteract that by setting a keyframe of -1. So now it'll appear that the camera does not rotate at all to throw off the perspective, but we still get the spiral motion. So the great thing about this solution is that we have full control over how close the camera starts, how tight the spiral starts, and then how wide the spiral goes just by adjusting our different keyframes here. So here I made the spiral go wider. I might want it to have more than one rotation, so I'll set it to 2. I'll counteract that with a -2 on the camera, and I'll show you what that looks like. So here we've got just a larger spiral camera move. So I hope that this helps and that you understand the principles of what I just showed you here. It's very simple. You can see in this window here kind of what's going on as well. So that's solution number 1. So now let me show you. Let me duplicate this and I'll make solution number 2. I'm going to reset everything. Okay, so for solution number 2, we are going to jump into Illustrator. And over here in Illustrator, under the line segment tool, there's the spiral tool. So all I have to do is click and drag, and I've created a spiral. And I'm selecting that spiral, hitting Command C on the Mac to copy, or you could go up here to edit, copy. Jumping back into After Effects. And you can do this one of two ways. The easiest way is just to select the position of the camera and hit Command V to paste. And you can see here that the spiral path is pasted onto the camera. Now, the first problem is that the camera is shooting off over here. The reason for that is because this is a 2-node camera. If you switch it to 1 node, it goes right back to facing forward. So the other solution here is whenever you paste a spiral, it's going to guesstimate how far apart to space the keyframes based on the curves of the spiral. The easy way is just to grab the last keyframe and just drag it to wherever you want it to end, because these are roving keyframes. We're too close here to see any of the circles, but a quick solution to that is to add another null object, make it 3D, parent the camera to that null, and just move that null back in Z space to create the back movement in Z to simulate our spiral move. Same with where the null begins. Make it so we can see these circles here. And I can also select both keyframes by just selecting position, and I can move them. Just like this. So I can focus my scene more on what I want to see. Okay, so this solution worked. The circles are off the screen a little bit too much, and you'll notice too that we are doing the opposite move. We're going from a wide part of the spiral to the narrow part of the spiral. And the easy way to fix that, if I want to do the opposite move, is just to select all keyframes, go to keyframe assistant, time reverse. And now we'll start tight and go wide, as you can see over here. I can reposition. Okay, so here's this solution. Starts really tight and goes really wide. So again, this solution looks pretty cool as well. But when I did start this solution, I told you there's one of 2 ways you could do this. So this was the first way, with pasting the path right into the position of the camera. Another way to do this is to create a new shape layer, convert to a path, so it's just a straight up path, and then paste the file spiral from Illustrator into the path of the shape layer. The advantage to doing it this way is that I have control over if I want the path to be smaller or larger. So it's just a little more flexibility in the size of the path that the camera will take, because what I can do now is size it to how I think it's appropriate, copy it from here, and then copy it into the position of the camera. So you can see here it's a much smaller path. If I think that doesn't quite work, I can enlarge it, maybe to say here, copy again, and paste. The path is slightly larger. If I want it really big, say like that. Copy. And paste. Now it's a much larger path. So again, the camera has gone back to a 2-node camera, switch back to 1 node, and there we go. So that's what I've got for you today. I know this was another quick one, and I kind of rushed through this, but I hope that you did learn something cool. Please comment below, like, subscribe, let me know what you think. If you have suggestions for future quick tutorials, let me know. I love to hear from you guys. So until next time, I'm Cameron, and this is Motion Science.